Hello and welcome to the Fuse and the Flint, where technology, innovation, and development intersect in exciting ways. I'm Doug Gapinski, an account director at 8th Light, and today I'm joined by Steve Hennegan, director of client strategy and engagement. In this episode, we're going to talk about AI fatigue as a natural phase in the hype cycle and how a pragmatic, user-focused approach can turn GenAI into a productive tool for enterprising organizations. Steve, welcome. The market is flooded with possibilities, ideas, and hype around AI, but there's sometimes a noticeable lack of tangible, functional software making a real-world impact. As with many emerging technologies, the effects of the Trough of Disillusionment, which is a subset of the Gartner adoption curve, are being seen with AI. Steve, how can organizations overcome the Trough of Disillusionment to reach the slope of enlightenment, to become excited and become productive and reach a plateau of productivity with AI?
Yeah, thanks for doing this with me, Doug. This is a really great question for us to start with. I think it really gets to the heart of where many organizations are with AI right now. When looking at the Gartner hype cycle, the Trough of Disillusionment is a natural phase in the adoption of emerging technology. It's the point where the initial excitement starts to fade and the realities of implementation, like cost, complexity, and limited immediate ROI start to set in. So with AI, we're seeing this manifest as some are calling AI fatigue. Teams are overwhelmed by the sheer number of possibilities and promises. They're struggling to identify where to start or how to achieve meaningful impact. But here's the thing, there is hope. This phase is not a failure. It's actually just a part of the learning curve. To overcome it and reach the slope of enlightenment, which is the next phase in the Gartner hype cycle, organizations need to focus on three key areas, in my opinion. It's clarity, practicality, and trust. First, clarity of purpose. A lot of organizations fall into the trap of adopting AI because they feel like they have to. There's a lot of pressure out there in the industry, not because they've identified a specific problem to solve. So most successful AI implementations start with a clear outcome-driven question, like, how can we reduce the time spent on legal document review? Or how can we make compliance checks more accurate? So by starting small and solving like targeted pain points, you can show quick wins that build momentum. Now, second, practicality and execution is where we see the importance, like taking a pragmatic, user-focused approach. AI isn't magic, right? It's a tool, and like any tool, its value comes from how effectively it's applied. Organizations should begin with pilot projects, low-risk, high-reward initiatives that demonstrate feasibility without requiring a huge upfront investment. So think automating non-billable tasks or streamlining workflows in specific areas. Then from there, you can simply scale what works. And then finally, third, probably most important one is just having trust in the system. That's a tough one for people. And for AI to move beyond the hype, it needs to be explainable and reliable. That means using high quality data, ensuring transparency in decision-making processes, and incorporating some human oversight, what we often call the human in the loop model. Keeping humans in the loop not only reduces errors, but also builds confidence among your teams and stakeholders. The bottom line is that overcoming this trough of disillusionment in this Gartner hype cycle isn't about doing everything all at once. It's about getting curious, staying focused, building incrementally towards long-term outcomes. So AI has immense potential. We know that. But to reach the plateau of productivity, the next stage in that cycle, I think organizations need to think less about what's possible and more about what's practical and impactful today.
Great insight, Steve. So summarizing, start small, take a user-centric approach, build trust with your audience. Really practical advice for a team looking to break into AI. Steve, I feel like one of the puzzle pieces with AI fatigue is talent. How should organizations think about talent or even finding a good partner for implementing AI?
Yeah, that's such an important point, Doug. Finding the right partner for AI is critical and not as simple as just hiring somebody with the technical expertise. AI is complex. There are a lot of factors that go into it. It's a multidisciplinary space, And success often hinges on working with a partner who understands the big picture. What I'd call the three pillars of the effective AI partnership, right? I'd say holistic teams, data and security, and training for long-term impact internally. So talking about holistic product teams, right? We love this term at A-Flight. The AI solutions don't live in isolation. They're a part of broader product ecosystem. A good partner understands the importance of bringing together diverse perspectives from design, product, and development, but getting them to all work collaboratively. I think the designers are going to ensure that AI is intuitive and user-friendly. Product managers make sure it solves real business problems. And the developers build the solutions that scale and integrate seamlessly into your existing workflows. It's this blend of skills that turns AI from a flashy prototype or a great example of what can be into something that's truly impactful as a product. Second, any conversation about AI has to include data and security, right? And the foundational elements that come with that. I think the best AI systems today are only as good as the data they're built on. So your partner that you choose to work with needs to help you assess and prepare your data for AI. That means cleaning, structuring, and ensuring the data is reliable. But as we know, it's not just about the quality, it's also about protecting it. AI often involves sensitive information and a strong partner that will have deep understanding of compliance, all the privacy laws within your organization or industry, and security best practices to ensure the organization and your clients' trust isn't compromised. And then finally, I think this is often overlooked a little bit. You need a partner who can train and enable your team for a long term, right? So with A-Flight, we really value mentorship and apprenticeship and raising the level of your team as we're working alongside them. So AI adoption isn't just about implementing a tool, it's about transforming how your organization operates as a whole. The right partner is going to guide you through this change. I think providing not just technical expertise, but also the knowledge, transfer, and training to empower your team to use, maintain, or even innovate with AI going forward. This is going to ensure that you're not dependent on your partner forever, but instead building internal capabilities that drive that continuous improvement as time goes on. So just to sum it up, a good AI partner is someone who looks beyond the code. They help you connect the dots between technology, people, and processes. They don't solve today's problems. They're helping build a foundation to solve future problems as well.
Wonderful bundle of insights, Steve. A great way of thinking about AI as part of your technical ecosystem, from holistic teams to data and security to building for appropriate scale to training as the human component. So appreciate you sharing your perspective.
No, absolutely, Doug. And thanks for bringing up the importance of partnerships. It is such a critical part of getting AI right in today's world. Now, for organizations that are just beginning their AI journey, finding the right starting point can feel overwhelming. There's often this tension between wanting to tackle big transformational projects and needing to show quick wins to build momentum. So let me ask you, from your perspective, what are some of the types of AI projects that are easier for organizations to get started with? And how can those early wins pave the way for broader AI adoption?
Yeah. Appreciate that. It's a deep question. I'll try to answer concisely. I think the first thing is understanding that there are a lot of types of AI that aren't just generative AI. Generative AI is getting a lot of the airtime right now, but computer vision, natural language processing, predictive analytics, reinforcement learning, robotics AI, knowledge representation, rule-based systems, these things have been around for years. And I think it's a matter with AI of matching the right solution to the core problem. That's the starting point. Because as you suggested, generative AI is a very new tool, but it's not unique in that engineering has always been about matching the right solution to the right problem. I think the second part of your question was about low-hanging fruit and how teams can delve into this if they're exploring it, and what some common use cases are for teams. So I think the foundational starting point for a lot of product teams is going to be existing product integrations, assuming that you're integration is compliant, and many of the tools out there now are compliant. But there are ways to enhance user experiences through content personalization or natural language interfaces. There are ways to automate content generation, things like pre-populating forms. We had a client who was working on a generative AI solution, and we helped them pre-populate, business formation forms with relevant data based on things that they had already populated in previous forms. Localization, another huge one for many enterprise businesses where you're trying to do translation to a number of different geographic locations. That's a big one right now. I think search and discovery, although if you're using one of the mainstream tools like Elasticsearch, search and discovery, the semantic search and the machine learning is kind of baked in. But if you happen to be rolling your own or customizing, that's a great opportunity to build with GenAI. Predictive insights, this is something that we see every day in tools in streaming services and music services. Predictive insights are behind the recommendation engine, and that's a great place for many orgs to start, particularly if you're selling a catalog of products. And finally, content moderation, so automated review. Many platforms now have social aspects to them, and content moderation is an important part of your community. And so all of those ideas are different ways that teams could think about leveraging common use cases for AI, particularly generative AI.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to bring things full circle, I believe, Doug. If there's one thing we want listeners to take away from this episode, it's the importance of being intentional in their AI journey, choosing the right tools, the right projects, and the right partners. Those are critical for some early stage success when choosing to enter this AI space. For me, there are three key takeaways. Organizations can overcome AI fatigue and move towards real growth. One, think as AI is a growth-driven product. It's not just tech, it's a strategic enabler. Number two, invest in the right talent, whether hiring or promoting internally, focus on aptitude for implementing AI effectively. And finally, build products that solve real problems, right? AI for the sake of AI doesn't drive impact, and I don't believe it ever will. So when it comes to finding the right partner, it's about filling gaps with your team's needs, hire holistically, treat data and security as table stakes, and work with someone who can help your team grow, not just deliver a solution.
Yeah, AI is not something to be afraid of. You can get product teams started. You do want to make sure that it's the appropriate solution. You do want to make sure that you're choosing the right type of AI as the solution. There are many areas that are sort of low investment to experiment with and try. One last point I would like to make is that product teams can and should play with generative AI as productivity tools. There's plenty of tools out there for prototyping and ideation, for code generation, for trend analysis, for automating documentation. You can use common tools like GPT. So that's another way that product teams can begin to experiment and play with AI, is using it for productivity, building knowledge bases, SEO, performance and improvement, automated summarization, that kind of thing.
Doug, thanks a ton for offering your valuable insight, and thank you to everyone for listening. If you're interested in learning more about the topics we covered on today's episode, be sure to check out the related articles in the show notes. You can always reach out directly to a member of our team if you'd like to explore whether GenAI is right for you and your organization.
Thanks to all our listeners. Thank you to Steve for co-hosting today and providing a lot of great insight. I want to invite everyone to check out our blog, which will also be linked in the show notes. You can also subscribe to stay updated on our latest episodes and visit us on 8thlight.com for more info. Until next time.